There's so much I want to talk to you about. You're down in Oklahoma. You're working mostly with pointers. You guys are working with flushers though too, right? Or not?
We do. We are just about to go away from working flushers. We are so fortunately we're so busy with the pointing dogs that we're about to discontinue the flushing.
So you have so many people bringing you pointers that you don't need to work flushers anymore, huh?
That's correct. You know, what happens is there are parts of that workout that are very similar to a pointing dog. We bring the flushers in and let them flush, and then we stop them.
Yep.
Just like we do the pointers, but you stop them a little later or they'll go to pointing too. But you have to set it up. It's a different workout, and we're just going to stay with the pointing breeds.
So you kind of mentioned this earlier, and I know it's different with a pointer versus a flusher, but like what percentage of the training when people bring in, I know they bring in their dogs for different reasons and different ages, and you're doing gunfire intro and bird intro and all that stuff too, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're doing everything. So do most people come to you with a pointer and say, teach this dog how to hunt? Or do people come to you and they're like, let's get through the basic obedience and then work on to these later things? Or is it just kind of a mix of everything?
Yeah, we have our basic program is a 90-day format, and that's all that we will accept when a dog comes in. Now, if he cannot progress to the level that he needs to, we usually make that decision the first 30 days, and then we have a conversation with the owner. And typically what that is prey drive. You really need two ingredients before you start formal training, in my opinion, is you need a dog that is well socialized. And I've stressed the word well. Just because they live in your house and they're with you every day does not mean they're well socialized. Okay. So you need a dog that's well socialized, a dog that can adapt, a dog that can mitigate the stress and pressures of life and training. And you need a dog that has a high prey drive, because that's what's going to sustain him through the training process. If you take a child and you give him a basketball for Christmas, and you go out and he starts shooting hoops for the first 30 minutes, and then you start trying to coach him, he's liable to become frustrated and quit. And the same thing can happen with bird dogs. If you just put them on birds and then start trying to put rules to it, steadying them up, they're liable to quit. So the prey drive is probably one of the biggest obstacles that we're faced with, in that the majority of the dogs that come to us have never been on game.
Yeah.
A lot of them have never been out of the urban environment. So now, as we're going through this, our training process is 3 legs. It's foundation is the first month, intermediate level the second, and advanced the third. So now that we're going through this foundation level, this first month, it's a 2-part workout. One part of the workout is on birds, just trying to build his prey drive. And the second half of the day is on just basic obedience. And there are times that we get to the second level, which is the intermediate level. And this is where we start the steadying up process. And if we don't have enough prey drive, even though our foundation's in place, if we don't have enough prey drive, we can't go forward. Yeah. We just don't have enough dog.
So I want to talk about that, but I want to back up just a second. So you said well socialized. We've got a woman coming on next week named Jessica Heckman, who's a canine researcher, and we're going to get into the weeds on proper socialization overall, and what they're learning about canine research is, you kind of laugh when you said it, like a well socialized dog. I don't think most people understand what it takes to get a well socialized dog and when that should start. That's going to start before you even pick that puppy up. You're going to have a breeder that's doing that. And so we're going to dive into that. It's going to be awesome. You're talking prey drive here, and this is something I would say probably at least a third of the people who reach out to us through our Facebook page or through our website contact form that are looking for a puppy ask about prey drive, and not in a way like They know they want the pedigree that has that drive to spare. Like, it's like people are becoming aware that it's important, but maybe not aware of how important it really is. And what you're talking about there is you're looking at these puppies, they're coming in and somebody's got a puppy of varying bloodlines, pedigrees, whatever, and they're going, all right, Ronnie Smith's going to make this dog into a bird hunting rock star. And you're sitting here going, listen, I can't wave a magic wand and make this dog the hunting machine you want if it doesn't have this prey drive component.
That is correct. And I'll say too, even about the training, we tell all of our clients when you bring a dog, we have what we call client days. So these are certain days that are scheduled through the 90-day course where we encourage the owner to come and be a part of the training, because we need to start to integrate them back into the equation. Whenever we receive a dog for training, we have no relationship, clean slate. So it's easy to establish the relationship that you want. But the owners have a relationship. So when they come back into the equation, it'll be the same dog that it was 90 days ago. So it's important that we bring the client back in so that the dog will work for them.
Well, how many of those client days do you do in a 90-day program?
So the first month we ask that you leave the dog. So there's no visitation the first month. A lot of these dogs need to acclimate. Yeah. A lot of these dogs need to get focused and intend on finding game, prey drive. Yep. And so the second month, it's typically the last 2 Saturdays of the second month, the intermediate level, and the last 2 to 3 Saturdays of the third month, the advanced level.
So you're looking basically after the 30-day start, you're looking for 4 or 5 days in the next 2 months where these people can come. And really, this is kind of like it's almost like a handler workshop, right? Where you're showing them like, yeah, this is where your puppies, this is where they're at now, but this is how you need to be with the puppy. Is that kind of the goal?
Absolutely, because we'll see things in dogs that we've never seen. Like the owners will show up and they'll go to their dog and their dog's jumping up on top of them. And Susanna and I will look at each other like, wow, we have never seen this, and we'll talk about that. And they're like, oh yeah, he's always done this. But again, we didn't have that relationship. So it means something, sure, the dog's excited initially, but it meant more than that. Yep. When it developed. He who's on top is chief. So there are a lot of things that transpire that you have to try to teach the owner about their dog and what's important to maintain this relationship.
So in addition to that, is there kind of this intangible aspect of it where you get to show them like, all right, here's this dog's behavior with you, jumping up, maybe not listening the same way. Here it is with me. And it's kind of like I'm showing you right now what your dog is capable of. And I'm going to tell you why your dog doesn't do that with you versus with me.
Absolutely. And typically, Tony, what happens is whenever the owners show up and Susanna and I go work these dogs, they look terrible, just terrible. But the foundation's there, the behavior's there, the training's there, and we pull it back together. So we tell the owners what it is that we're doing to pull it back together. And then before they leave, it is back in place. So they get to see their dog the way he was, and then us pulling back in the way he is now. Now, when we hand them to the owners later on, like that third month, they fall apart again. They look just like they did. But it is our goal. If the dog doesn't work for the owner, then it's been a waste of time and money for both parties. It's all for naught.
Is part of it like a psychological thing to show them like, hey, your dog is capable of a lot? Because we see this happen where when I interview people and, they become a dog trainer, a lot of them don't come from the situation you did where it was sort of a family business. And, it was like the path to your career was more linear than a lot of dog trainers. And so somebody who just, always kind of had a bend toward dogs and, started training a dog for somebody or got asked to do it and, like progressed into that role, there's usually like one phenomenal dog in their origination story where they just like, they thought dogs were dogs and labs hunted and they were nice, or pointers or whatever. And then they saw one dog that was exceptional, and it kind of opened their eyes and they said, holy cow, dogs can do this. I mean, is there like a psychological component of this where you're bringing these people in saying, look at your dog, look what your dog's capable of? Because a lot of people might not even have understood it was possible.
Yeah. And I tell you, the biggest surprise to me every year is just for most people to have their dog heel beside them and not be pulling them down the street. You can't believe how many people will have tears in their eyes from just that, because they have this good citizen now that they can go through what it was they were doing their daily life.
Yep. Yeah. Good manners.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's a simple, it's easy to joke about, but when you get out into the real world, you see bad manners in dogs. And there's sort of like a negative connotation there. If I'm like, oh, your dog has bad manners, it's like a personal insult. And it's not the dog's fault. It's not, you don't have a bad dog. You just have a dog that hasn't been trained to act properly. I mean, it's the same thing, like I see, my wife and I were coaching, 7 and 8 year old girls in basketball last night, and you see a wide variety of behaviors come out. It's not the 7-year-old girl's fault that, that she can't handle not making a basket and completely falls apart. There's a lot built into that little girl before that. And so it feels like the same things with dogs. Like, do you think, so I'm always curious about this. When somebody brings you a dog, you get them in there, they come every Saturday, you ask them and you work with them and you show them like, listen, your dog's capable of this, your dog's advanced to here. How do you feel the compliance rate is once that dog goes home? Like, are people sticking to your program? I mean, I'm sure there's a little deterioration, but like, how do you feel about it?
I think there's a high level of erosion.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's for a number of reasons. One, life again gets in the way, and people are just not able to work with their dogs. Two, I think within a family, there's a split. For the most time, and late, I'm not saying anything about the ladies, but this is typically the way it is. The man hunts, and maybe some of the children, and the wife typically doesn't. Although we're seeing more of that, where the wives and the daughters are hunting, which is awesome. Yep. But that's the split, because I hear it a lot where a guy will say, Ronnie, if I lose this dog, I can't go home. I understand that, I get it. So what happens is whoever is spending the most time with that dog is leaving most fingerprints, and, whoever that is the dog they've got.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, that's just the nature of our family dynamics, and the dog, the pack mentality with the dog. Like they're going to have somebody they look to, and everybody else they're going to try to kind of wedge into third, fourth, fifth place, whatever. That dog wants second place, or, that dog wants first place, but you should get them in a position where they understand they're not getting there. Cause that's all kinds of problems.
Well, that's right. This is a pack animal, and that's why we've been able, to domesticate them to the level that they live in our houses, and we love these dogs because they join up with us. They're a pack animal. Yep. So you're absolutely right.
That's why they find, and I'm going to get into this with Jessica too, but they find one of the biggest stressors in a dog's life is being separated from you. There's, that dog goes out and gets into a fight with a raccoon or something, or another dog, or whatever happens in it, and stress can stick around and layer itself. And, there's a lot to that, but just in that dog's life, because of their pack mentality, one of the biggest stressors they're ever going to deal with is just separation anxiety from, the alpha, whoever's leading their pack. That's how they're wired.
Yeah. And that can be worked on at a young age, if we don't put the dog in a position at a young age to be separated from us, then they they never learn how to be separated from us. And then they start to eat the furniture and wherever they direct that anxiety, that anxious mindset.
Yeah, it's a matter. It can be almost overwhelming when you start to think about, you get this little puppy and now you got to anticipate everything you want to do with that dog, from having it behave in the house to hunt quail, to jump off the dock to get the dummy, to all these different environments, all these different things, to spending time alone. And you need to anticipate that stuff and start training for those things and baby confidence building steps. And I think if you look at it big picture, it's an overwhelming thing. That's why guys like you are in business and you're going to be in business forever, because most people look at it and go, there's no way I can do most of this stuff with a dog. But it's little bite-sized things in life that you can prepare them for these bigger events that can like all kind of come together into a good dog.
It's not politically correct, but I'm not politically correct, but it's like raising children. And that's the honest truth. As long as you're consistent with whatever your parameters are, then that's the personality that you're going to have. If that's going out in the backyard and playing ball with your children when you're tired and you don't have time, but you do it anyway, it's the same thing with the dog. It's just like raising children.
Yeah. Maybe it is politically incorrect, but I think it's the parallels you see when you're raising little kids and you're training dogs. There's so many parallels to you putting in good, putting in bad, seeing what comes out of it. It's amazing to me.
It is, and they're with the dogs. I tell a lot of our clients that the dog is a reflection of you. Now, there's some genetic predispositions, but he's a pack animal, and they are reflections of us, as are our children.
Yeah, they are. And you know what I've become, and I'm curious for your take on this with all your experience. I've become like hyper cognizant of how much my dog feeds off of my emotion and where I'm at when we're hunting. Because and this came to me when I was hunting by myself with her. So nobody else around, no other dogs, no distractions. It's just, hey, we're hunting this way, we're hunting that way, we're hunting pheasants, ducks, whatever. And I realized how smooth it went if we were by ourselves, because I'm not worried about anything else. I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm following you around. You tell me where the pheasants are. The wind's blowing this way. Let's work this way. And I felt like this palpable difference in my dog where she's like, oh, this is all we have to do. And she's not distracted. And it's like, maybe we don't put ourselves in a situation with our dogs to notice it enough. Maybe most people aren't hunting enough or training enough, but they are 100% feeding off of you. And if you're wired up and keyed up and acting like an idiot, you're going to drop them down a level in performance.
There is an energy that we all have. And to be cognizant of that energy, honestly, I have just realized that probably in the last 10 years. I'm still learning so much. And that's why this never gets boring. I mean, I'm just constantly learning. My wife says I forget things and relearn them, and I'm okay with that because I'm still learning. But the energy, the energy that you bring to the situation is vital. I have to consciously think in certain situations to be neutral with my body. As I'm standing there with the dog, and he's this little sponge, and maybe he's a fearful dog, right? I have to be that leader. I have the analogy I use is I like to fly in airplanes. Okay, I love to see I love the takeoffs. I love to see the earth from above. I love to land. I really enjoy that, but I'm afraid of heights. So when we hit turbulence, we're going to die. I'm certain of it. Okay. I know we are. So what I do is I look to the business guys, the guys wearing the suits. You can't look at the stewardess because they're professionals and they'll lie to you with their bodies, right? They're okay. But the guys that fly all the time, as long as they don't pick their head up from their newspaper or their computer, I know we're in that gray area, that it's okay. Even though I'm feeling it, they're, as the leaders, letting me know that we're okay. So that's the kind of trainer or owner that you need to be. You need to be that figure that the dog looks at, and even though he might be feeling something that's real and true, he's playing off of you. So if that's you being in a situation and feeling a lot of energy, let's say that you introduced the gun to the dog and maybe you didn't do it properly and he overreacted, and now you overreact and he sees you overreact, and now we have a situation. Maybe that's where you just don't have any energy and you just rock along like everything's okay. And when you get away from your dog, then you can melt down and call somebody,
Yeah. It's that's such a good point. And we think about it, having a good relationship with a dog. And we talked about this earlier. You think about reading their body language. Okay. What's my dog doing? What's it showing me? Is the dog, anxious, or is that dog super excited? Is it wild? Does it need to run around for 10 minutes just to settle down? What's going on? But that dog's doing the exact same thing with us. And there's probably more weight to them reading us than us reading them. I mean, maybe not, maybe it's similar, but they don't have, like you said, they don't speak English. So they're looking at you, they're looking at your eyes, they're looking at where are you looking, where are you walking, how fast are you walking? Are you hunched over? Are you ready? There's a lot going on there to that relationship. And it just goes back to that trust thing again. Like if you establish yourself as somebody they can trust throughout new dynamic situations where things are changing and it's exciting, they're going to just perform better.